Welcome to Nucleus, the podcast covering America's top leaders in business and culture. I'm your host, Tripwire. Today on the show, the visionary maverick who dared to dream in stainless steel and created one of the most legendary automobiles in history. The story of John DeLorean and his unforgettable Gullwing DMC12. John DeLorean, the cautionary tale of charisma without execution. Last week marked what would have been John DeLorean's 100th birthday, and the automotive world barely noticed. That silence speaks volumes. Here was a guy who once seemed destined to run General Motors, the youngest division head in the company's history, the man who basically invented the muscle car. And yet, his legacy is complicated enough that even a century milestone gets a shrug. Meanwhile, that stainless steel car he built, still showing up at car shows, still getting photographed, still making people smile because of a movie about time travel that came out after his company spectacularly imploded. If that's not the most backhanded immortality in business history, I don't know what is. DeLorean's story matters right now because we're living through another era of charismatic founders promising to revolutionize industries. Every time someone announces they're going to disrupt automotive or manufacturing with bold vision and celebrity swagger, DeLorean's ghost should probably tap them on the shoulder. His journey from corporate superstar to independent entrepreneur to federal defendant is one of the most instructive cautionary tales in American business. And the wild part? The guy was genuinely brilliant. This wasn't some charlatan who talked his way into success. He actually built incredible cars at GM, actually understood engineering and design, actually had the credentials, which makes what happened next even more fascinating and terrifying. So let's talk about how someone goes from being the golden boy of Detroit to getting arrested in a hotel room, shall we? Because the lessons here aren't just about what not to do. They're about how early success can become your worst enemy, how vision without execution is just expensive daydreaming, and how the skills that make you great in one context can utterly fail you in another. John DeLorean grew up in Detroit during the Depression, son of a Romanian factory worker and a Hungarian mother. His dad worked Ford's foundries and drank too much. His parents' marriage was troubled. Classic origin story for someone with something to prove, right? But here's what separated DeLorean from 1,000 other ambitious kids in Motor City. The guy was legitimately smart. We're talking multiple engineering degrees, including a master's from Chrysler Institute, all while working factory jobs to pay for it. He started at Packard in the early 50s, then jumped to GM in 1956, joining Pontiac's engineering division. This is where the story gets interesting. DeLorean lands at Pontiac right when the division is struggling with this stodgy, old person image. He's working under Bunky Knudsen, who recognizes that DeLorean has this rare combination: technical chops and an instinct for what young people actually want. Together, they pull off what might be DeLorean's greatest achievement, the Pontiac GTO. Here's the beautiful part. GM had this corporate policy limiting smaller cars to engines under 330 cubic inches. DeLorean and his team basically said, "Cool policy, bro," and offered a massive 389 cubic inch V8 as an option package. Corporate rebellion disguised as paperwork. The GTO created the entire muscle car category and sold way beyond anyone's projections. DeLorean was 39 years old. By 40, he's running Pontiac. By 44, he's general manager of Chevrolet, GM's biggest division. He's the youngest executive at these levels in company history, and he's not just riding the wave. He's pushing innovations in safety, challenging the conservative culture, developing the Firebird. But he's also doing something unprecedented for a car executive. He's getting plastic surgery, divorcing and remarrying younger women, including a model, showing up in celebrity magazines, hanging out in Hollywood, The suits at GM are getting nervous because DeLorean's acting like he's more important than the company itself. Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai. In 1973, at 48 years old, DeLorean walks away from GM. He's literally on track to potentially become president of the world's largest corporation, and he quits. His stated reason? GM's bureaucracy, their resistance to innovation, their ethical compromises around safety. His real reason? Probably ego. He'd started believing his own press clippings. He thought he could build a better car company without all those corporate constraints holding back his genius. 2 years later, he founds the DeLorean Motor Company with this vision of an ethical sports car. Safe, fuel-efficient, long-lasting, challenging Detroit's planned obsolescence. Noble goals. He hires the legendary Italian designer Giorgetto Giugiaro to create this wedge-shaped gull-wing door sports car with an unpainted stainless steel body. The original plan was to sell it for $12,000, compete with Corvettes, revolutionize the industry. Classic visionary entrepreneur pitch. Except here's where vision meets the brutal reality of automotive manufacturing. Building a car company from scratch requires hundreds of millions of dollars. It requires manufacturing expertise, supply chain management, quality control systems, distribution networks. DeLorean had celebrity and charisma. He could raise money and generate publicity. What he didn't have was the operational infrastructure that had made him successful at GM. After failing to secure U.S. government support, he cuts a deal with the British government in 1978. Northern Ireland, desperate for jobs in Belfast during the Troubles, offers him about £100 million in grants and loans. Sounds great, right? Except now, he's building a factory from scratch in a region with zero automotive manufacturing tradition, an inexperienced workforce, and active political instability. The original vision keeps getting compromised. The affordable price point balloons to $25,000, then $28,000. The innovative engine doesn't work, gets replaced with an underpowered French V6. Quality control is a nightmare. The car finally launches in 1981. It looks incredible. Those gullwing doors, that stainless steel body, that futuristic profile. But it's expensive, underpowered, and plagued with reliability issues. Sales are disappointing. Inventory piles up. The company's burning cash. And DeLorean, instead of pivoting or restructuring or honestly assessing the situation, keeps doubling down. He believes more marketing, more publicity, more charisma can overcome the fundamental problem that he's built a mediocre product at an unsustainable cost. By October 1982, the company's collapsing. DeLorean's desperate. And this is where the story goes from business failure to actual crime drama. He gets involved in what becomes an FBI sting operation. Whether he was entrapped or genuinely trying to finance his company remains disputed. The arrest is sensational. The trial is a media circus. He's eventually acquitted on entrapment grounds, but his reputation is destroyed forever. The company's liquidated. 2,500 jobs disappear in Belfast. Investors lose everything. So what do we learn from this spectacular flameout? 3 critical lessons that every leader needs to internalize. First lesson, early success creates dangerous blind spots. DeLorean's meteoric rise at GM convinced him that his talent was transferable to any context. But his success at GM happened within an established infrastructure. Experienced engineers, proven suppliers, sophisticated manufacturing systems, massive distribution networks. He was brilliant at innovating within that structure. Building the structure itself required completely different capabilities. This maps directly onto what researchers Matthew Hayward and Donald Hambrick call the hubris hypothesis. Early wins create overconfidence that leads to increasingly risky decisions without adequate assessment of whether you actually have the skills the new challenge requires. When you're transitioning from an established organization to a startup or new venture, you've got to ruthlessly distinguish between your transferable skills and the contextual advantages you're leaving behind. DeLorean never made that distinction. He thought being great at GM meant he'd be great at anything automotive.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today.
Second lesson. Personal brand cannot substitute for operational excellence. DeLorean invested enormous energy in publicity, celebrity connections, and media appearances, while the Belfast factory couldn't consistently build a quality car. He genuinely believed that brand power and charisma could overcome manufacturing deficiencies. This is a trap that's even more dangerous now in our social media age. It's easy to build a personal following, generate buzz, create excitement. It's incredibly hard to build the operational systems that consistently deliver value. McKinsey's research on operational excellence shows that sustainable competitive advantage almost always comes from superior execution of fundamentals, not from marketing or founder personality. Allocate your leadership attention proportional to what actually drives value, not what's personally gratifying or generates short-term buzz. DeLorean spent his time being famous when he should have been on the factory floor fixing quality problems. Third lesson. Escalation of commitment can be fatal. As problems mounted, DeLorean consistently doubled down rather than pivoting or honestly reassessing. Every new investment, the Belfast factory, production equipment, inventory buildup, made walking away psychologically harder, even as the probability of success kept shrinking. Behavioral economists call this the sunk cost fallacy. The money's already spent. The rational decision is based on future prospects, not past investments. But humans don't work that way. We escalate commitment to justify previous decisions. The way to fight this? Establish clear decision points and success metrics before making major commitments. Create external accountability, board members, advisors, specifically empowered to challenge continued investment in failing strategies. Regularly ask yourself, if we were starting today with what we now know, would we make this same decision? DeLorean never asked that question. He just kept believing harder. Here's the framework that ties this together. Jim Collins' concept of level 5 leadership, from good to great. Collins found that the most successful leaders combine personal humility with professional will. They're ambitious for the company, not themselves. They credit others for success and take responsibility for failure. They make decisions based on data, not ego. DeLorean had abundant will, but zero humility. He couldn't accept critical feedback. He couldn't acknowledge limitations. He couldn't separate his personal identity from the company's success. That combination is poison. The tragic irony? DeLorean's car became iconic for reasons having nothing to do with him. When Robert Zemeckis needed a time machine for Back to the Future in 1985, he chose the DeLorean because it looked futuristic. The movie became a massive hit. Suddenly, this failed car from a bankrupt company was culturally immortal. DeLorean himself spent his remaining years fighting lawsuits, filing for bankruptcy, attempting various business ventures that went nowhere. He died in 2005 at 80 years old. His reputation never recovered. So what's the bottom line here? 3 quick takeaways. First, success in one context doesn't guarantee success in another. Rigorously assess whether you have the specific capabilities your new challenge requires, not just general talent. Second, operational excellence beats personal brand every single time. Spend your energy building systems that deliver value, not building your celebrity. Third, create circuit breakers that force honest reassessment before you escalate commitment to failing strategies. Your ego will lie to you, so build external accountability that tells the truth. The real lesson from John DeLorean? Vision is necessary, but insufficient. Charisma opens doors, but doesn't build companies. And sometimes, the smartest thing a brilliant person can do is recognize what they don't know. DeLorean never learned that last one. Make sure you do. Thank you for listening to Nucleus. You can show our podcast team some love with 5 stars and a follow. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
Grep News. Thomas.